Are you the sort of person who's different? Yeah, I know you are. If you're interested in something like this, then you're definitely different. It's a 7-seat, all-wheel drive, fully electric van. That's right. This is the ID Buzz GTX, the range-topping model in the passenger van range of electric vehicles from VW. And this one, well, it's different, all right. It's got some really interesting facets to it, some interesting traits, and a few features that you might love, some things you might not love. But hey, we'll cover it all in this review. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out the link in the description below to see my other review content on the ID Buzz, the long wheelbase version that is an all-wheel drive, and also the short wheelbase one, which I drove about a year ago. Right, let's take a look, shall we? And if you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell. Let's go. So far, we know what this car will cost. It will be $109,990 plus on-road costs. And I know that is a lot of money, but this is a lot of car for someone who's looking for an electric van with 3 rows of space and boot space to spare, and also plenty of amazing features inside and out. Now, like I said, the final specs and details aren't quite locked in for Australia, but you're going to expect things like matrix LED lights, 21-inch wheels. You'll be able to option 2-tone paint, which will cost you about $4,000 more. Ouch. And on the inside, there's going to be a much sportier looking interior. And if sporty looking is what you're after, this is probably the one in this lineup that will suit your needs. It's a little bit less retro inspired in terms of the interior finishing, still with some high-tech features, a 12.9-inch touchscreen media system, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, sat nav, and you'll also probably be getting things like heated seats as standard in the front and second row, and a heated steering wheel as well. Hopefully, we'll have to wait and see. But look, GTX, 110 grand, what else could you consider? For me, the obvious alternative to this is actually this, but the cheaper one. The long wheelbase Pro version if you need 7 seats, or the short wheelbase Pro if you don't. They're a fair bit less money and still very, very likable to drive, still with big battery packs and good EV driving range, and still with all the features that you would probably hope for and expect in a family van like this at the kind of money that's being asked. But hey, otherwise, you could also consider something like the Kia EV9, especially maybe the GT line version. It's more expensive than this, and yes, it does have dual motor all-wheel drive as well, and plenty of punch, but it's not as practical as this in most ways because it is an SUV, and I know that that probably will be the thing that people want more than a van, but this is a very specific type of buyer, I reckon. And hey, otherwise you might want to wait for the Volkswagen Multivan. There's going to be a new version of that built off the passenger car platform this time around, not the commercial vehicle platform like this one. So it could be a really good option for you with 3 rows of seats and the Volkswagen-ness that you would expect. Don't know the pricing on it yet, but stay tuned, ring the bell, and you'll be notified when I do a review on that one. And hey, let me know if there's any other vehicles that you would recommend in the comments section below as an alternative to this. What do you think? I think this could be one of the coolest looking cars on the market. The GTX does have some extra features that make it stand out. Look, it's got a different front bumper design, looks a bit sportier as you would expect, and those 21-inch wheels certainly stand out as well. You've got GTX badging. The interior is very different as well. We'll get to that in a sec, but I just want to show you at the rear as well, because you do have a few extra details at the back to make it stand out as the GTX. Mainly, it's just that badge. All right, let's check out the boot space and see what we have to deal with here. Electric tailgate, as you would expect. Just like the other version in this lineup, it's got lots and lots of space. And yes, you can put things on that shelf for your luggage, and there's actually little drawers underneath, so you can put your safety vests or whatever it may be, and you can put your charge cables or whatever it may be, or you could pull that out and just have a big boot if you don't like the drawer situation. There's also good stuff like a shopping bag hook and a 12-volt port, and some other stuff here like this retractable tow ball, which we're not surely going to get in Australia, but it's a neat little gizmo anyway if you need a tow bar. I'll put the towing capacity numbers on your screen now, and sadly no version of the Buzz comes with a spare wheel, so that might be a deal breaker for you. I can totally understand if it is. I just want to show you the boot space with those rear seats folded forward and maybe even pushed forward. Let's have a look. Okay, so that's them folded down. So that gives you an idea of how much space you can have. If you do fold and slide those seats all the way forward, look, you'll have to figure out whether this is going to be practical enough for you. This does have this shelf fitted, so it might not necessarily be as practical as it could be, but hey, I still think no matter how it's configured, you're going to have bloody heaps of space in the back here. So this is the interior of the GTX version. Yes, it does have a few extra finishes to make it feel sporty and more special in some ways. I don't necessarily think it's more special because it is sportier, but it does have the red stitched finishing that you might love. The red finishes on the steering wheel. There's GTX embroidery on the seats and the red piping on those seats as well. Those seats are sporty seats. They're very comfy and very supportive. And you do get a few other great features in here. Some nice big storage caddies, glove box. There's storage bins in the doors with USB-C ports. There's flip down cup holders. Those are your electric door openers, so you can actually just remotely open the doors, which is actually very, very handy if you're picking up people from somewhere, school, work, whatever it may be. You've got USB ports up here and a wireless phone charging dock where you can sort of park your phone in there and it won't come flying out. And there's a removable center console bin down here. If you don't want that there, you can remove it. And look at this, it's got a big opaque glass roof, right? But if I swipe backwards on the sunroof control, it turns to glass. Well, it's still like lightly tinted, opaquely white glass, but just look at this. It's kind of neat, isn't it? I think that's very cool technology and your kids are going to bloody love it. And hey, you might think that this is a really nice special cabin. I think that maybe things could be just a little bit better. It's got hard, scratchy plastic sort of everywhere. Nothing is soft to the touch. And for 110 grand, I sort of expected a little bit better. You do get soft elbow pads there, so not nothing. Maybe that was a bit unfair, but yes, it's maybe not $110,000 in my mind, but you tell me what you think. Now, I'm going to show you the back seats. I'm not going to jump into the back because if you want a full practicality teardown, make sure you watch my other review. Yes, you've got ISOFIX points in those back seats. And yes, it is a 6-seater in this spec that I'm driving. Not sure whether it will be in Australia. Probably, I would say. And there might be a 7-seat option, or it might be the other way around. And you've got climate control in the back on both sides and vents as well. And also those armrests are handy. Those ISOFIX points and top tether points in the second row are handy. And you've got them in the third row as well. So yes, it could be a very family friendly van for you and yours. This version of the ID Buzz gets the big battery pack. It's an 86 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery. You'll see the numbers on your screen now in terms of the WLTP rated range for the Euro spec versions. The Australian WLTP figure isn't confirmed just yet, but it is a dual motor all-wheel drive van that's big and heavy, and that is something you need to keep in mind. So it maybe isn't as efficient as some of the other versions of the ID Buzz, but it does have some pretty good charging figures on its side. So let's talk about that now. In here, you've got an AC charging port at 11 kilowatts. You will need 3-phase power at home in order to take advantage of that. You'll see the charging time at 11 kilowatts on your screen now. And there's obviously a Type 2 combination plug with DC charging at a maximum rate of 200 kilowatts for this long wheelbase model. So that means you should be able to recharge relatively quickly at a rapid charger. You'll see the time on your screen now to recharge at one of those fast chargers. But look, you tell me what you think in the comments section below. Are those quick enough times for you to consider charging up and charging into the Volkswagen dealership to buy one of these things? Across this different mix of driving I've been doing in the ID Buzz GTX, it's maybe not as comfortable as some of the other versions of this vehicle. So obviously it's got 21-inch wheels in this spec with very low profile tires, and it's designed to be sportier to drive. That's what GTX means, right? So it is definitely a little bit more firm and maybe a bit too fidgety for my liking. I don't necessarily think I like the ride of this car in the experience that I've had over here, including some smooth roads, but also some less than smooth roads like we do more typically see in Australia. So, and you might be okay with that. You might think that's a price you just have to pay to get the performance that this powertrain offers. And let's talk about performance. Let's give it a boot. Whoa, yep, that is very, very quick. like, whoop, I better slow down. It's that quick. It is that quick. It's not like a Tesla Model Y performance or anything like that. It is not like mind-blowingly fast, but it is fast considering this is a 7-seat family van that has huge practicality on offer. It's way more practical and way faster than a lot of other vehicles out there. So if that's what you're after, and you definitely need all-wheel drive, because this has the dual motor layout with the maximum output of 250 kilowatts, and while Volkswagen doesn't combine the two to offer a combined torque figure, you would be, in theory, if you can get it all down at once, up for about 769 Newton meters, which, yeah, that's a lot of go-go's. But yeah, if you don't need all that, then the more affordable version of the ID Buzz, the Pro long wheelbase with 7 seats, and its rear-wheel drive, it might be a better choice for you. You'll find the link to my review for it in the description below, so make sure you check it out, and I do go into a bit more detail in that review about the practicality and stuff like that too. Also, you do get more road noise from these tyres in the 21-inch rim spec GTX. It's maybe a little bit noisier than you might hope for, but I don't think it's too noisy. But my thing that I don't really like about it personally is the steering, which does have a bit of a artificial sort of feel to it. It's got a heaviness to it that they've built into it to make it feel a bit more sporty, I guess. I don't necessarily think that it needs that. And look, there's also different drive modes, and I'm in comfort mode. So you'd think that comfort mode would have the softer, more easy to turn steering, but it doesn't. It's still a bit heavy. Put it into sport and you do get instantly, the steering gets like gluggier. So it's a bit heavier on the center. And look, it doesn't change the suspension or anything like that, but it does change the performance in terms of the acceleration. It is still really, really quick, but it's not necessarily that much quicker to put it into sport mode. Now, also, I'll just say it does have regen braking. You twist the gear selector forward to go into B mode. That's how you get into your regen braking. And I have to say, it is big, it is heavy, and it does feel that weight when you are trying to stop it, especially if you're driving it fast. And you might be tempted to drive it fast, but you need to be mindful of the fact that it is heavy. I'll show you the weight on the screen now, and it's, well, it takes some stopping. That's physics, right? So it does have the regen brakes to help you in stop-start driving, in sedate driving, and you can just take your foot off the accelerator, and it will slowly, slowly, slowly pull you up to, let's see if it gets to a stop. We are at just on walking pace, so not quite a stop, and that might be something that you don't like. I don't necessarily care that much. I think that it does have regen braking that makes it feel pretty drivable on one pedal, so you can sort of just drive it on the accelerator rather than having to jump between the brake and the accelerator, or the play and pause buttons as it shows on those pedals. But honestly, I think that the GTX is going to appeal to a lot of Volkswagen customers who just want the top spec one. They want the best one you can get, and in theory, this is the best one you can get if you need all-wheel drive. But personally, I still think the better one to get would be the rear-wheel drive version if you don't need all-wheel drive. And you'd save like almost $20,000 if you did that too. Right, so what about efficiency for this large and in charge version of the ID Buzz? It is on the higher side, but it's still not as bad as some other all-wheel drive dual motor electric models. You'll see the number on your screen now. That's the WLTP rated number for this GTX version in Europe. Ours will be probably quite similar, if not identical. And if you're wondering what I've seen across a mix of driving, across a mix of drivers as well, so different people with different driving styles over a day and a half of driving this car, you'll see it on screen now. And I think that that is actually not too bad, considering the mix of different scenarios we found ourselves in: urban, highway, freeway, twisty roads, and more than the occasional acceleration test, let's say. So, yep, it's pretty good on the efficiency front. So is it the best version of the ID Buzz? Well, it depends on what you need. If you need the fastest one, you need all-wheel drive, then it has to be this. But for me, I would choose the rear-wheel drive Pro version in long wheelbase format because I just think it ticks more of my boxes, but I'd love to know what you think in the comments section below. Hit me up, and if you haven't, make sure you click the link in the description to check out my review of the other versions of this car. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe as well. It does help a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.